I think we know already that every country can be affected. It could happen to USA, to Canada, to Australia. We know that the virus was traveling in the luggage by airplane. Yeah? We know that the virus could be traveling with the feet and feet components. Yeah. So this is a point we know that we have, for instance, in some countries like Germany, the Netherlands, Switzerland, Denmark, we have people who are coming from Eastern Europe working on the pig farms. They may bring some pork meat at home, which is a very tasteful, but may contain the virus. So it means that everybody is at risk. So it means this education, this information is very important for every country where we have pigs, because you never know when or which country will be the next. Hopefully we will be able to stop this expansion of the African swine fever virus, but we have to be prepared and we have to be really focusing on prevention. And prevention in this case means really education and information.
Hello, welcome to this episode in the Meet the Expert series of podcasts brought to you by Boehringer Ingelheim on swine health management in practice. My name is Peter Best. In this episode, we continue a conversation with Dr. Tomasz Trela about African swine fever. Dr. Trela is the technical manager for swine in Central and Eastern Europe at Boehringer Ingelheim, based in its regional centre in Vienna. We're going to be talking about transmission and protection with regard to the ASF virus, and in that context, let me remind you, our listeners, that Boehringer Ingelheim offers an app called Combat ASF, which is an online tool that a swine producer can use to assess the biosecurity in place on the farm against the entry of ASF. Dr. Trela, the first part of our conversation covered what your personal experience of farms with African swine fever in several countries has shown about the recognition and diagnosis of the disease. Regarding these farms where you've had experience, was it obvious how the African swine fever infection had entered them?
No. So actually, in most cases, we never found out how the virus came to the farm. So, and this is a similar experience in Europe and in Asia. So we can assume that there are many introduction routes. So people, vehicles, equipment, for instance, field equipment, which is coming from the infected field, which is, for instance, populated by infected wild boars, and then the farmer is parking his tractor in the middle of the farm. Of course, kitchen food waste, so swill and scrap from the kitchen. This is especially in Asia, but it could also be a problem in some European countries, Romania, Ukraine. And of course, the live infected pigs, which may be asymptomatic, but already shedding the virus. And we have cases when a farm got infection by importing infected, however asymptomatic pigs. There are some other risks or some other routes. We have evidence that the feed or feed components could be a source of the virus. Actually, in some countries, especially small farmers, the backyard farmers, they are using during the summertime green feed, which is harvested from the area around the farm. And if this area is frequented by infected wild boar and freshly fed to domestic pigs, the risk of infection is actually very high. And we have a confirmation. We have a case that the green feed, the grass, which was fed to pigs was full of the virus. So it means you have to take any kind of option into your consideration when you are trying to close these routes. But again, the majority of cases remained unclear, so we really don't know. So therefore, when we are working on biosecurity, we have to actually evaluate every kind of scenario We have evidence that the flies or other insects may be a carrier, but basically, I do not think personally this is the highest risk or the main route. If you keep the farm really clean, if you have a routine effective fly control, this risk is probably much smaller compared with the people movement, with the vehicles movement, with the equipment movements, or in some cases, in some countries, infected pork meat products which are coming to the farm.
But I was interested, one of the things I wasn't really clear about before was the fact that wild boar could contaminate field crops, and then the crop themselves, or as you said, the field equipment, the tractors and so on, could be the means by which the contamination, the infection, is carried into the farm. That has happened in your experience.
Absolutely, yes. So first of all, we have to remember that the wild boars, which are infected, they are shedding this virus in urine, in feces. So it means this way the virus can contaminate, for instance, grass or grain, and then the straw, which will be used as a bedding after that. But I would put attention to one point: the wild boar cadavers. So the dead wild boar body, which is in different stage of decomposition, is always a huge risk, because these cadavers, they contain a huge amount of the virus. You will easily overlook, for instance, if you are on the big tractor in the field, you will not see that there is a dead boar lying somewhere below your tractor. You just drive over, and then crushing the bones which are full of the virus, you will contaminate your tractor tires, and then easily you will bring the virus to your farm. Please remember that the virus is very resistant to physical and chemical factors. So actually, depending probably on the weather, ultraviolet, and so on, the virus can stay infective for several weeks or even months in the field. So it means a boar which died, I don't know, January, February, if you get in contact with the remainings of this wild boar in April or May, you still can infect your shoes. So this is a really we have to consider, and we see actually that in areas where we have a high wild boar density, we have also higher risk of ASF infection in domestic pigs.
So there's a clear correlation between that.
There is a correlation, and this is what we see in the field. And meanwhile, there are some really scientific publication based on mathematical calculation models which really confirm very clearly that there is a correlation between wild boar density and the risk of getting ASF on the farm.
So are wild boar the biggest risk factor, the biggest single risk factor in your view, or do you think there is something that is even more important in terms of something that allows the African swine fever virus to reach swine farms in different countries?
I think that in countries where we have quite a big wild boar population, like Poland, like Hungary. Just last week we had outbreaks of African swine fever in Slovakia, eastern part of Slovakia, which is very close to Hungarian border, where we have a huge amount of infected boars. So probably one can assume that the wild boars were source of the virus there in this region. So it's a very serious problem, but it's not the only one. I mean, we have a lot of cases where the virus came with the people. So a very important point is that the virus needs a carrier. The African swine fever virus cannot fly. So somebody has to bring it to the farm. It could be a person with the shoes, with the clothes, with the equipment. It could be vehicle. It could be a kind of agriculture equipment which became infected and then was entering the farm. And of course, again, infected pork this is a very important point, because in many pork products which are not processed in high temperature, just smoked, for instance, or a kind of very popular belly called sawo in eastern part of Poland or Russia, Ukraine, the virus can stay infectious as long as 6 months. So this is a really high risk if you have no pork at the farm. This is the point, yeah.
Let me pause for a moment to remind everyone that more information on this conversation, like articles, publications and videos, can be found on the website pers.com. When we talk about lessons from affected farms, then, Dr. Trela, I mean, biosecurity has got to be the number one, hasn't it, really? How do we emphasize the importance of measures to stop any direct or indirect contact between wild boar and domesticated pigs?
I think, first of all, biosecurity is the only tool we have now to protect our pigs from African swine fever. As we know, vaccine is still under development. There are some information from China, but I think we are still quite far away from having an effective vaccine. So biosecurity is the only tool we have. And I think that the first step when we are thinking about protection is a really solid fence around the farm. A simple story, but still very critical, very important, and still very effective. So we need a solid fence, which means at least 2 meters high, which is going at least half a meter deep into the ground, which can really physically protect wild boars to entering the farm area. If you have a fence, you need the gates, which are properly constructed, which are properly managed. I mean, close the gate. A good fence will be not giving you protection if your gate is open all day and night. So it means it's not only infrastructure, but also is the proper usage of the infrastructure, which is very important. But fencing is very, very important to protect, keep the area around the farm, and of course inside the farm clean, so you can see if there is a moving anything around, but also do not attract any kind of animals having a garbage around the farm, or any kind of something which would attract, for instance, wild boars, who we know very well are very keen about, for instance, garbage from the kitchen or from the human households, looking for something tasteful they can consume. So keep it clean around, keep it behind the fence, and this is already reducing the risk significantly.
Still on lessons or possible lessons, should we include ASF in the list of possibilities for consideration when some of the pigs on a farm suddenly become ill and die? I'm thinking it might avoid the mistakes of transporting pigs to another site or to the slaughterhouse before there's been a definite diagnosis.
Yes, this is a very important point. So because we know that at the beginning the infection is going very slowly. So we know that there are no specific symptoms. So it can easily happen that you will send out of your farm pigs which are already infected with the virus without knowing this. And this way, the pigs will be, of course, spreading the virus around or infecting another farms. Another story is, this is what is happening or was happening in Asia, Vietnam, China, but also in some countries like Romania, maybe Ukraine or Poland again, that the farmers, the small farmers, when they realize that they have African swine fever outbreak on the farm, and if they see that some pigs are still clinically okay, what they are doing, they try to save the money they still have, and it means they are selling these pigs, knowing that they are probably infected, or knowing at least that they have the virus on the farm. So it means we have to be very, very cautious, because the risk that some pigs which are traded or transported around, they may be infected. So it means you have to be very careful. This is also true for transportation companies, for any kind of trucks which are moving pigs around, because they may be infected. Yeah.
Yeah. But I have to tell you, Dr. Trella, I feel sorry for the farmers if ASF is easily confused with other diseases, as you say, and its signs can be so non-specific. What do you suggest can be done to help the operators of farms? Particularly, what sort of advice could their veterinary advisors offer them?
I think it's, as I said, everything is about people. So we have to educate people, we have to inform people, and people mean pig farmers, veterinarians, I mean also veterinarians from the state administration. So we have a training, we have a meeting with state veterinarians. They have to make decisions, they have to supervise the outbreak, and may not have experience with the disease. So it means it's exchange of information, exchange of experience, training of employees, education of employees on the farm, but also transportation companies, rendering companies, which may be in contact with infected pigs or dead pigs which were killed by the virus, but also feed mills, diagnostic labs. So there's quite a complex area. And then we have also people who are maybe not directly involved in the pig business, like hunters, but they are in contact with the wild boars. They have to know what does it mean to have African swine fever virus in the wild boar population, or how the virus can enter wild boar population in the region. So actually, once more, education, information, regular trainings, a kind of monitoring employees and everybody who is involved in basically health protection of our pigs.
Yeah. Should this education focus on the farms that are in an area of known risk with the virus?
I think, of course, because they are. I would say they are closest to the risk, or they are closest to the
Yeah.
virus. So they are at the highest risk. But I think we know already that every country can be affected. It could happen to USA, to Canada, to Australia. We know that the virus was traveling in the luggage by airplane. Yeah? We know that the virus could be traveling with the feet and feet components. Yeah. So this is a point we know that we have, for instance, in some countries like Germany, the Netherlands, Switzerland, Denmark, we have a people who are coming from Eastern Europe working on the pig farms. They may bring some pork meat at home, which is a very tasteful, but may contain the virus. So it means that everybody is at risk. So it means this education, this information is very important for every country where we have pigs, because never know,
Right.
you never know when or which country will be the next. Hopefully we will be able to stop this expansion of the African swine fever virus, but we have to be prepared and we have to be really focusing on prevention. And prevention in this case means really education and information.
Mm. And the starting point for this education, for example, are there checkpoints which farmers and the workers could be asked to observe?
Well, I would say that today we have a lot of possibilities to get in contact with farmers. The last few months were, of course, dominated by webinars, by online meetings, by publication in farmers' media. I mean, we are doing podcasts about African swine fever now, trying to share some experiences and informations. But another point is a really close cooperation with the farmer and his veterinarian. Yeah, so it means they have to really cooperate on daily basis. They have to exchange information. They have to inform each other about anything which could be relevant for the early diagnosis. So we have a situation that the veterinarians are organizing trainings for the farmers, they are servicing. And I must say I was participating in many of these meetings, and they are really very, very interesting. And I think that the farmers are really learning a lot. And going back home to their farm, they really know much more, and they are better prepared to mitigate this risk and to reduce this risk.
Well, I must admit, one of the things that rang a bell with me was when you referred to the workers. They need to be made aware that they themselves could bring the virus onto the farm?
Absolutely. So, as I said, we have quite a lot of people migration in Europe, but the same in China. The people are moving, looking for a job to other areas, maybe during some holidays, going back home. There is a tradition in many countries. You take some food, the taste of your home, going back to your work, and with the taste of your home, you might bring the virus to farm or to country which is still virus free or African swine fever free. So it means, yes, they must know this, that they may bring this virus with them, and they must be aware that this is absolutely no go. It's a cooperation, it's a mutual cooperation with the farm management and the employees. So it means that you have to ensure and you have to provide other kind of meat, poultry, beef or fish or whatever, just not to motivate people to bring a pork meat to the farm, because it could be a problem, and actually it was a problem in many cases.
We're nearing the end of this podcast, Dr. Trela, but there are a couple of points very quickly, please, if I could ask you. I'm going to take you back to the detection and diagnosis of an ASF episode at a farm. Are there ways we could make this process both faster and more accurate than the methods we have today?
Well, I think so. We can do it, and I think already a lot of things are happening. I'm thinking here now about the rapid test for quick use on the farm. So you can have a quick test for confirming, for instance, DNA of the virus directly on the farm, which will shorten the period significantly, maybe 2-3 days faster than if you are going traditional way with the laboratory. Actually, again, China is a country where this type of approach is already implemented in the practical life. We have now a kind of approach which is, due to the legal regulation, not possible in Europe. I'm thinking about test and removal, and the colleagues in China are working already with this rapid test. We may think about a kind of a group monitoring, for instance, testing oral fluids like we are doing, for instance, for PRRS monitoring. So definitely there is a need for quick and rapid recognition on the farm, and it's already some work ongoing. So I hope that we will have this type of test available and affordable quite soon, hopefully.
Indeed. Finally, then, I'm going to ask you for a take-home message, Dr. Trela, if I may. For our listeners, what are the key points that they should bear in mind in just a few words, please?
I think very important is the early detection and early diagnostic. So it means early diagnosis is very important from the regional or country point of view, because it's the main point to prevent the spreading of the virus. As a veterinarian, you have to be careful about non-specific clinical symptoms, about non-specific pathological lesions. As a farmer, you have to be careful that the disease may be very unspecific and spreading very slow at the beginning. So do not wait. If you are feeling uncomfortable with something which is ongoing on your farm, contact your vet, use the laboratory testing we have already. And saying all this, I would say education, information, experience exchange is very, very important. We have already quite a lot of knowledge, so we have to use it to prevent our farms better. based on our experience, we are gaining basically every month, every week.
Thank you, Dr. Trela. Thanks also to our listeners for joining us. Another podcast talking to Dr. Tomasz Trela about African swine fever will be available soon in the Meet the Expert series brought to you by Boehringer Ingelheim, so stay tuned. But thanks for joining us on this podcast today. Thank you. We want to remind you that more information on this conversation, like articles, publications and videos, can be found on the website pers.com.